The estrous cycle is a type of reproductive cycle that the cow has and includes the period of time from the appearance of one estro to the beginning of the next, or the time interval between two ovulations. The estrous cycle divides two phases according to the ovarian activity. The first one is called follicular estrogenic or proliferative phase and includes the proestrus and the estrus. The second is called luteal phase, progestational or secretory, and is made up of the METAESTRUS and the DIESTRUS. At the beginning of the proestrus, FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, determines the growth of a group of immature follicles. This is favored by the activins that these follicles secrete to promote their own growth, as the activins stimulate the FSH. These growing follicles also produce estradiol, but this is produced in greater quantity by the follicle that becomes dominant. This hormone also contributes to the growth of the dominant follicle in advanced stages, at the end of the proestrus, as does FSH in early stages or at the beginning of the proestrus. Since FSH in the last days of the proestrus is inhibited by inhibins, secreted by the dominant follicle in its last phase of maturation, in order to avoid growth of other follicles. The estrus lasts between 12 and 24 hours, and the predominant hormone here is the estradiol, which is responsible for the expression of the signs of heat or seal by acting on the central nervous system. It also favors the presentation of contractions in the myometrium to help the transport of sperm. And it is the hormone that causes the LH peak, inducer of ovulation, through the stimulus that exerts on the GnRH. Here begins the day zero of the cycle. And the previous thing was possible because the levels of progesterone remain low during the estrus, since this hormone inhibits the GnRH and with it the gonadotropins. But since it's low, gonadotropins are not inhibited, allowing them to increase, specifically the LH stimulated by estradiol. Ovulation occurs 24 hours after the LH peak, on day 1 of the metaestrus, and from there begins the formation of a corpus luteum, producing increasing amounts of progesterone, causing the gonadotropins to regress to basal levels. Remember that this hormone inhibits GnRH. This also contributes that the estrogens that stimulate GnRH in the previous cycle decrease rapidly in this stage of the cycle, a fact that occurs from the moment of the LH peak. In the diestrus, already on day 7, there is a mature corpus luteum producing high levels of progesterone. And since this hormone inhibits GnRH, gonadotropin peaks will not occur during this stage, so that ovulations do not occur, because the endometrium is prepared for pregnancy, generating optimal conditions that favor the implantation and maintenance of the embryo, which is also favored by progesterone. In domestic animals, the growth of a group of new follicles not only occurs during the follicular phase, it also occurs during the luteal phase, and this is called follicular waves. That is why in the luteal phase, estrogens are also produced in small quantities, as a result of the development and regression of follicles. A significant increase in estradiol can be observed around day 10, although this cannot stimulate the release of an LH peak due to the presence of progesterone. In the cow, most of them occur 2 or 3 follicular waves per cycle, and the number of waves that occur is what determines the duration of the estrous cycle, which has an average of 21 days. Finally, if by day 16 there is no maternal embryonic recognition, the endometrium releases prostaglandin F2 alpha, whose main action is to destroy the corpus luteum. With this, the levels of progesterone fall again in the proestrus, so that the inhibition on the GnRH is withdrawn, favoring the increase of gonadotropins that will stimulate a next follicular wave in which a follicle will become dominant, and will produce large amounts of estradiol again in the estrus to stimulate the LH peak and a following ovulation.